Hello, my name is Lauren Isaac, and today I will be doing my persuasive speech on why you should recycle. My topics for this speech will be reduce, reuse, and recycle. These are three terms that are often key in recycling and living a more sustainable life. And down here I have a short animation from the Environmental Protection Services about recycling in general. So I'm going to play that real quick before I start. Alright, so that was just a short video showing how people think about how we can either reuse the trash that we have every day or make something new with it or it be remade into something totally different, which is kind of the main purpose of recycling. So for the next part, I will be just describing some statistics about how much trash we throw away and how much of it is actually recycled or reused. So, on average, approximately 22 billion plastic water bottles are thrown away every year. In 2018, 292.4 million tons of trash went to landfills in the US alone, and that equals out to about 4.4 pounds of trash per person per day. And out of all of that, only 69 million tons were recycled and 25 million tons were composted. So why recycling is so important is that it takes plastic it's estimated that it takes plastic almost 1,000 years to decompose in our ecosystem naturally. So most of the plastic that has existed on this earth at some point is still here today. So it's important to reuse it and just make something new out of it so that's not just sitting around as litter. Some more stuff is it's estimated that there are approximately 5.25 trillion pieces of plastic in the ocean. Of that, 269 tons of the plastic is floating on the surface. And the Great Pacific Garbage Patch isn't all plastic, but it makes up the majority of it, and that continues to grow every year and is currently about 617,000 square miles, which is about twice the size of Texas. These statistics may seem large and even a little bit scary, but they kind of are. If we don't do something about our problem with trash, it'll just continue to get worse and it'll continue to pile up. But recycling is something that we can do to reuse the materials that we already have. So, and just one last statistic, 91% of recyclable plastics went to landfills in 2018. So we definitely have room for improvement. That number could be a lot better, and just things could be a lot better as a whole with that. So my first topic is to reduce. So reducing is just about using less, whether it be food, plastic, cardboard, anything, just getting less trash out there and on the surface of our planet. So a couple good things to keep in mind when reducing are when you're buying groceries and stuff, like a lot of things come wrapped in plastic. A lot of times it's excessively, like I've worked at a grocery store, and we used to sell individually wrapped oranges and apples with the peels still on. It made no sense and was just completely wasteful. So avoiding buying stuff like that tells companies that stuff like that isn't going to sell. So that helps to cut out single-use plastic. Another thing when you're buying food is only buy what you need. The food that we buy and don't eat because it gets old or it goes bad is a major contributor to what's in landfills. So first of all, we need to make sure that we're only buying what we need. And then second, we can compost stuff like that. So like plants, vegetables, cardboard eggshells, all kinds of other stuff can be composted and made into dirt and soil, which is really nice for gardening and growing new plants, whereas it could have just went into a dump with plastic and cardboard and just sat there and not have been used at all. So one of our major problems is single-use plastics, like plastic forks, plastic spoons, plastic cups, like pictured on my slide here. So stuff like this we need to cut out, try to reduce. A good thing that people who try to reduce their footprint as much as possible do is carrying around like reusable straws, reusable silverware, just so that they don't have to use these plastic alternatives that are only going to get used once and then thrown away. So reducing is just kind of the stage where we introduce healthy habits and just form habits of keeping things clean and recycling things. So my next slide is about reusing. So there are tons of things in our day-to-day life, like I mentioned, the single-use items, whether it be plastic, cardboard, whatever, that we could cut out instead. So like I have on my screen here, I have a reusable bag. So one of the major things that plastic comes from and it just gets thrown away is plastic bags. So when going to the grocery store, going shopping, a great alternative is to take a cloth bag or to reuse some of those old plastic bags. Same thing with straws and cutlery, like I already mentioned, just in the home, especially making sure that you're using reusable ones so that it's not just piling up a bunch of plastic stuff. And on my slide, I have storage mentioned. So basically what I mean by that is like single-use plastic containers and Ziploc bags are really damaging, and I feel like we as a society could do better to use better alternatives. So composting, I already mentioned, it's a great way to reuse like the food scraps that we wouldn't have eaten and turn them into something that's going to be better for the planet. And then the fashion industry. So why I mention this is we have a problem with like fast fashion, with what's in style or new. People will go out and buy things that they don't really need because it's fashionable per se, when we have most of the time plenty of clothes that are just fine that people will just throw out because they're not in fashion anymore. So just using your clothes for as long as you can and maybe donating them to like a secondhand store or a thrift shop when you're done with them is a really great way to reuse your clothes so that people in need can have them and they're not just getting thrown into a landfill with everything else. And lastly, I have recycle. So recycling covers pretty much everything that can't be reused or disposed of. So it's pretty easy to find out what's recyclable. Like on a lot of things, you can just look on the back and it'll tell you, like it'll have a little symbol like pictured on this slide without the earth in it. And it'll usually have like a number corresponding to what kind of plastic or cardboard it is, and it'll tell you if you can recycle it or if it has to be disposed of in a certain way. And it's a lot easier than a lot of people make it out to be. So another thing is a lot of people don't recycle because they just don't know what to do with it after they've collected it. And the best thing for that is to just do your research and find out what your town offers in terms of recycling. So like I grew up in Kindleville, about 40 miles north of here, and we just had a little recycling plant where like everyone could just take their stuff and dump it into bins, and they would sort it and ship it off to be recycled and made into new things. So you really just need to do your research and figure out what's best for you and what's best for your town, and that's about it. So if we all work together and we recycle, we can keep a lot of plastics and cardboards and metals and all kinds of things out of landfills and reuse them for a long time to come. Thanks for listening. And here are my sources, by the way.